have you?
What's going on, everybody? Welcome to another episode of The Artist Reads the Bible. Today we're going to be starting with Exodus 20, and I'll probably do 20 and 21, I'd say. So, as usual, I got my highlighter, got my decaf Java juice, and I got the Living Word of God right here. So let me go ahead and get these spectacles off. Give me some of this Java juice. Love coffee. That's good stuff. And let's get going. Chapter 20. Then God gave the people all these instructions. And this would be the Ten Commandments. I'm the Lord your God, who rescued you from the land of Egypt, the place of your slavery. You must not have any other God but me. You must not make for yourself any idol of any kind or any image of anything in the heavens or on the earth or in the sea. You must not bow down to them or worship them, for I, the Lord your God, am a jealous God who will not tolerate your affection for any other gods. I lay the sins of the parents upon their children. The entire family is affected, even children in the third and fourth generations of those who reject me. But I lavish unfailing love for 1,000 generations on those who love me and obey my commands. You must not misuse the name of the Lord your God. The Lord will not let you go unpunished if you misuse his name. Remember to observe the Sabbath day by keeping it holy. You have 6 days each week for your ordinary work, but the seventh day is a Sabbath day of rest dedicated to the Lord your God. On that day, no one in your household may do any work. This includes you, your sons and daughters, your male and female servants, your livestock, and any foreigners living among you. We're going to talk about that. Well, actually, I'm going to talk about that right there. A lot of Orthodox Jewish people will actually get other people to do things for them on Sunday because they're not allowed to do it. Like, push buttons on an elevator or make a phone call, stuff like that. But it says right here, your male and female servants, your livestock, and any foreigners living among you. So actually doing that, according to the Bible, is wrong. For in 6 days the Lord made the heavens, the earth, the sea, and everything in them. But on the seventh day he rested. That is why the Lord blessed the Sabbath day and set it apart as holy. Honor your father and mother, then you will live a long, full life in the land the Lord your God is giving you. You must not murder. You must not commit adultery. That means don't cheat on your spouse or whoever you're with. You must not steal. Our government need to learn something about that one. You must not testify falsely against your neighbor. You must not covet your neighbor's house. You must not covet your neighbor's wife, male or female servant, ox or donkey, or anything else that belongs to your neighbor. So that means be happy with what you got. Quit wanting what other people have. When the people heard the thunder and the loud blast of the ram's horn, and when they saw the flashes of lightning and the smoke billowing from the mountain, they stood at a distance, trembling with fear. And they said to Moses, "You speak to us, and we will listen. But don't let God speak directly to us, or we will die." "Don't be afraid," Moses answered them, "for God has come in this way to test you, and so that your fear of him will keep you from sinning." As the people stood in the distance, Moses approached the dark cloud where God was. And the Lord said to Moses, "Say this to the people of Israel. You saw for yourselves that I spoke to you from heaven. Remember, you must not make any idols of silver or gold to rival me. Build for me an altar made of earth, and offer your sacrifices to me, your burnt offerings and peace offerings, your sheep and goats, and your cattle. Build my altar wherever I cause my name to be remembered, and I will come to you and bless you. If you use stones to build my altar, use only natural, uncut stones. Do not shape the stones with a tool, for that would make the altar unfit for holy use. And do not approach my altar by going up steps. If you do, someone might look under your clothing and see your nakedness. And that was 20. Whew. So that was 10 commandments. Wow. Commandments. But the actual 10 commandments is when he's on Mount Sinai and he brings tablets down, and that's when he finds that Aaron has made and the people have made a false idol and are worshiping it. Big mistake. Love coffee. Let's proceed with 21. These are the regulations you must present to Israel. If you buy a Hebrew slave, he may serve for no more than 6 years. Set him free in the 7th year, and he will owe you nothing for his freedom. If he was single when he became your slave, he shall leave single. But if he was married before he became a slave, then his wife must be freed with him. If his master gave him a wife while he was a slave, and they had sons or daughters, then only the man will be free in the 7th year, but his wife and children will still belong to his master. But the slave may declare, I love my master, my wife, and my children. I don't want to go free. If he does this, his master must present him before God. Then his master must take him to the door or doorpost and publicly pierce his ear with an awl. After that, the slave will serve his master for life. See, I just don't get in this whole slave thing, but when a man sells his daughter as a slave, she will not be freed at the end of 6 years, as the men are. If she does not satisfy her owner, he must allow her to be bought back again. But he is not allowed to sell her to foreigners, since he is the one who broke the contract with her. But if the slave's owner arranges for her to marry his son, he may no longer treat her as a slave, but as a daughter. If a man who has married a slave wife takes another wife for himself, he must not neglect the rights of the first wife to food, clothing, and sexual intimacy. If he fails in any of these 3 obligations, she may leave as a free woman without making any payment. Anyone who assaults and kills another person must be put to death. But if it was simply an accident permitted by God, I will appoint a place of refuge where the slayer can run for safety. However, if someone deliberately kills another person, then the slayer must be dragged even from my altar and be put to death. Anyone who strikes father or mother must be put to death. Kidnappers must be put to death, whether they are caught in possession of their victims or have already sold them as slaves. Anyone who dishonors father or mother must be put to death. These are kind of brutal, aren't they? Punishment's severe. Now suppose 2 men quarrel and one hits the other with a stone or fist, and the injured person does not die but is confined to bed. If he is later able to walk outside again, even with a crutch, the assailant will not be punished but must compensate his victim for lost wages and provide for his full recovery. If a man beats his male or female slave with a club and the slave dies as a result, the owner must be punished. But if the slave recovers within a day or 2, then the owner shall not be punished, since the slave is his property. This one a little hard to read. Now, suppose two men are fighting, and in the process, they accidentally strike a pregnant woman, so she gives birth prematurely. If no further injury results, the man who struck the woman must pay the amount of compensation the woman's husband demands and the judges approve. But if there is further injury, the punishment must match the injury. A life for a life, an eye for an eye, a tooth for a tooth, a hand for a hand, a foot for a foot, a burn for a burn, a wound for a wound, a bruise for a bruise. If a man hits his male or female slave in the eye, and the eye is blinded, he must let the slave go free to compensate for the eye. And if a man knocks out the tooth of his male or female slave, he must let the slave go free to compensate for the tooth. If an ox gores a man or woman to death, the ox must be stoned, and its flesh may not be eaten. In such a case, however, the owner will not be held liable. But suppose the ox had a reputation for goring, and the owner had been informed but failed to keep it under control. If the ox then kills someone, it must be stoned, and the owner must also be put to death. However, the dead person's relatives may accept payment to compensate for the loss of life. The owner of the ox may redeem his life by paying whatever is demanded. The same regulation applies if the ox gores a boy or a girl. But if the ox gores a slave, either male or female, the animal's owner must pay the slave's owner 30 silver coins, and the ox must be stoned. Suppose someone digs or uncovers a pit and fails to cover it, and then an ox or a donkey falls into it. The owner of the pit must pay full compensation to the owner of the animal, but then he gets to keep the dead animal. If someone's ox injures a neighbor's ox, and the injured ox dies, then the two owners must sell the live ox and divide the price equally between them. They must also divide the dead animal, but if the ox had a reputation for goring, yet its owner failed to keep it under control, he must pay full compensation, a live ox for the dead one, but he may keep the dead ox. And that's 21. Whew, man, that 21 is a little hard to read. So I just don't. I know it talks about it in the Bible. I don't get in this whole slavery thing. I don't know. To me, it just, I don't know. I know what the Bible says. Even if it was legal today, I don't think I could own another human being. I couldn't do it. I wouldn't want to do it. No. That just doesn't seem, I don't know, it doesn't seem right to me, It just, and I know what it says in the Bible. It talks a lot about it. And according to 21, doesn't seem to be a whole lot of value placed on slaves either. Some, but not as much as free people or whatever, and because it's one part it said because they are your property. And I'm like, ooh. It just, I don't think I could look at another human being as property. I don't know. And I'm going to be honest with you, I don't know how that even existed in this country to begin with. I know it exists all over the world. I know it still exists to this day, all over the world. But I don't know, man. I don't see how anybody could just buy a person. You hire people to do work for you, and then you pay them for a wage for their work, I've even heard of people having people stay with them, and you feed them and you give them room and board, and you might even pay them a little bit for helping you out, but to own somebody, I don't know, that part. I don't know. That part's just real uncomfortable to me. I don't know. I could never do it. Like I said, even if that was, even if that was legal, I couldn't do it. I wouldn't want to do it. I don't know. But, back then that was a different time, and like I said, I know it still goes on today. It goes on in a lot of Arab countries. It goes on a lot in Africa. It goes on in, some other countries, I'm sure. I just can't think of the ones. It happened a lot in this country, and it wasn't just black slaves. It was Irish slaves. It was Native American slaves. It was, I'm sure there were probably Hispanic slaves. A lot of people, to pay their debt, would put their children into slavery here in this country to get out of paying the debt, or they themselves would have to go into slavery to pay the debt, and boy, that just, I don't know, seems a little, I don't know, it just seems brutal to me, I just can't wrap my head around that whole slavery thing, I don't know. I just couldn't. I'd be the type of person, I'd go to, if I ever hit the lottery or something, I'd be the type of person, I'd go to some slave market, one of these countries, and I'd buy up all the slaves, and we'd leave that country, and then I'd set them all free. I'd be like, here's you each some money, go start your life, be free, whatever, and I don't know, I just couldn't. I don't know, but then I guess if you think about it, like rich people have butlers and maids, but they kind of pay them. They give them room and board, and they pay them a wage, and it just. But slaves, I mean, you're not paying them anything. You bought this individual, and you may give them room and board. You may feed them. Well, I'm pretty sure you'd have to feed them, or they're going to die, and then there goes your investment or whatever out the window. But it's against their will. A maid or a butler or what have you, a gardener, a landscaper, or what have you. They do that of their own free will. They do that because they want to do it. Well, I don't know if they want to do it, but they have to survive. They have to for money. So I don't necessarily think that, you know what I mean. It just, those parts are hard for me to read because it just makes me uncomfortable. I don't like the thoughts of slavery. I don't. I read it in the Bible. I've read it before, and I'll read it again. But I just don't like those parts. I don't know. I don't guess you have to like everything in the Bible. You just have to read it, and you have to learn from it. I don't question God. I just, there are parts of the Bible I don't. It's not that I don't agree with it. I just may not like that part. And if God was okay with slavery, then I'm not going to question God. If it was meant to be that way, then that's the way it's meant to be. I can't personally do it. That just goes against what I am, who I am. But if that's the way God wanted it, then I'm not going to question God. That's the way it's supposed to be. God's will be done, So, anywho, I'm going to hop off here. I hope y'all got something out of today. I know I did. Some of it a little uncomfortable, but, nonetheless. Every time I read the Bible, I get a little something out of it, and that's the purpose of it. So until next time, I love each and every one of you. Y'all, please, please, please be good to each other, and I'll bring you something again real soon.